on believing, nobody else gotta see it. Keep on reaching, the stars are aligned and feel it. I said keep on believing, nobody else gotta see it. Keep on reaching, the stars are aligned and feel it. I got ice in my veins and my teeth are froze. Happen cause the passion I've been making goals. Only time I feel alive is when I'm chasing goals. And when I'm reaching goals, that's why I be alone. The time I level up is when I be alone. Only way to really find out what you're capable. Let's put it all on the line when you're chasing goals. There's a magic that'll happen when you're facing up. There's a magic that'll happen when you're waking up. And when you're weak and numb, but you keep breaking them. I'm talking curses that are around your generational. I'm talking chains around your neck that really weigh you down. Like I used to give a fuck of what they think about. I was swimming on the surface, but I'm deeper now. On the island all the time, face some reaper now. Forget what everybody says, you gon' be the one.
This borderline fly like a skateboarder high. Comprised with vodka, the prototype, immortalized to the mind. You lose your mind and soon to find the food yourself. You could rule the world, as good as how to do the work. Exhale the negativity, start bringing in the new. Be the reason someone out there keeps a dream of pursuit. Cut the bass, let it bleed, light it up, illuminal. Pursue it all, proving to be indubitable. Believe in your mind, what you say and think is what comes to life in the days and weeks.
Hey,
What's up,
Zach.
Alicia? How's it going? How's it going? Welcome, everybody.
Okay.
It's going okay.
It's going all
welcome
right.
to the 21st Non-Custodials Live today. What a blessing to be here today and to be with you, Alicia, and the guest we have today. There's no coincidences in life, and today was a day, man. It was a challenge.
He's supposed to be here.
In this experience for me around being a dad, around my purpose and what's going on. And we got an amazing man on here today who's going to support me, but more importantly, all of you guys out there in your challenges to find your purpose, to be the dad you're called to be, and to step up to the challenges that this world's been giving you and overcome them and enjoy this opportunity that you have to be alive and to raise your kids and to just to be here and make the best of all of it. So I met Shawn probably about a year ago or so, just online and connecting through some of these fatherhood groups and stuff, and we began talking. And then really the first time I met him in person was in Missouri at the celebration for the passing of shared parenting.
That was the first
That's when
time?
you met him. Yeah, in person.
Oh, I thought you guys met before that. Like,
I
I
mean,
mean, in
we-
person, I thought you guys did. That was the first time I met him in person, too.
Yeah. I mean, we acted like great friends, and I think we are good friends and stuff. And we were before that also. But that was the first time I met him in person, and he was my roommate. So we got to hang out a ton that weekend, and it was a real blessing. And just in the 5 minutes we had before we came on the show, while we were talking and stuff, helped me get my mind right and stuff, and get me set up for the opportunity to be here with you guys today. A lot of things going on, and I'm not gonna go into my details and stuff. But
He has all the words needed,
But
doesn't he?
Shawn's the dad-to-dad coach. He was the head guy, ran the support calls for TFRM for like a decade. The man's so focused and passionate and committed to helping dads going through this experience, overcoming and stepping into the power that they have. And you couldn't ask for a better guy to be in your corner at any given time. And so I'm gonna keep saying praises, and without further ado, let's just bring Shawn on and get him going. Let's get
Bring
that
him
applause out
on.
there.
Gotta let it
funny.
run the whole way.
All day today, I felt no pressure. Now all of a sudden, my heart's like this big around. And
No pressure.
No pressure. No pressure.
We're so happy you're here.
Yes, we are.
No pressure.
Yes, we are. Blessed,
all.
man. Thanks for being the great guy that you are, man. A great friend, a hell of a dad coach, and you're looking like you're gotten in a lot better shape since you were this summer. So you're looking really good, my friend. Congrats.
well, I've done what I can. I mean, after after you tortured me at the gym that morning, I realized that maybe I wasn't taking it as seriously as I thought I was. My right elbow hurt for like 6 months.
That's not good. It means you went too hard. But you know what? I'm glad that I got to push you a little bit, and it was a really fun time just to spend that with you. I haven't really spent a lot of time in the gym with a lot of other people, and to get to have somebody in the gym with you and to just have like that time to connect while you're working on yourself and building yourself. I think it's much more than just a physical place. You know, it's physical, but like spiritual, emotional, everything is done while I'm at the gym. So, and to be there with you then was just, I don't know,
Sorry.
it was just a great time. So, anyways, Shawn, you know what I'd like to hear first is kind of, I think this question for everybody, like what got you into this? What brought you into the father's rights space and the shared parenting movement?
Well, in 1988, after a failed attempt at being married and having 2 children, I found myself faced with being alienated from my children for the next 16 years. I got to see them a couple of times a year over that 16-year period, and honestly, I made my fair share of mistakes during that time. Um, but one thing I'm proud of is that I've have a good, both those sons are now 38 and 36, and I have very good relationships with both of them, and have since they turned 18. Um, Unfortunately, the older of the two is now having trouble with being alienated from his kids, and we've worked on that. And I spent a lot of time helping him. And then my own situation occurred again. My second marriage, after 23 years of marriage, things fell apart, and I found myself totally unexpectedly being kept out of my son's life, and that kind of woke me up. And the reason I got into doing what I'm doing now was primarily because I reached out to everybody I could find. You know, I looked on the internet. I figured, well, we've got this great big resource here. There's got to be tons of people out there, and I couldn't find anybody. Nobody would talk to me, so I pretty much had to do the entire fight by myself. And I remember, as I sat, I'll be honest, I sat and cried many times, alone. And I said, you know what? I get through this. I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that nobody else has to suffer by themselves. And so I set out to help people. And then, like I said, you mentioned my time on the crisis hotline. I had worked a crisis hotline before as a volunteer for the National Crisis Hotline. So when the time came and I saw that they had a crisis hotline there at the Father's Rights Movement, I said, "Well, this is perfect. Let me give that a shot and see how that's going." I came in and they had a guy named Mike Whitney. I don't know if you guys have ever met Mike.
Yeah.
He's a
Never met
bigger than life character,
Yeah.
and I came in right as he was pretty much leaving, which kind of left me to fill his shoes, which scared the living daylights out of me
Probably
because
big shoes.
very big shoes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I was like, oh God, what have I gotten myself into? But then slowly but surely, you do on average 3 calls a day, every single day of the year. Eventually, you start relaxing and getting more comfortable. And the longer I did that, the more I started realizing that, hey, there's a lot of need out here. Um, I still have a dream to create a peer support platform. I hope to turn TFRM into that, but I couldn't get them interested in that. So that's where you'll see me sometimes, use the tag "Dad the Dad." Uh, that's just actually a friend of mine suggested that as a tagline for the peer support platform.
Does the Father's Rights Movement, do they still have that crisis hotline?
I believe they still have the line. Um, the few people that I worked with that were working with me at the time, none of them are on there anymore. So I have no idea where it's gone since then because I
But
don't.
if it exists, just any dad in any
Mhm.
situation just calling for support in any way, shape, or form, they just call the number and
Right.
be able to connect with somebody.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the problem there is that they don't really have hardly anybody answering the phone anymore. That was one
Right.
thing that I pretty much dedicated myself to. Was it didn't matter what time of day or night that line rang, I answered it.
Right.
So
Yep.
and they haven't had anybody like that in a while, from what I can tell. That you can also text that line. I'm sorry I don't have that number handy in front of me, or I would actually offer it, because I mean, if you're desperate, you would need somebody to talk to, you might be able to get a hold of them. But
I mean, I give out my number all the time, 307-256-6257. That's my phone. Call me, you know. We're working on getting a line here. Maybe Shawn and I can get a line going and do something like that
You guys
with some of
should.
the groups and
Yeah.
stuff. So we've talked about it. We need to spend more time together anyways. And so we've talked about doing some more things. But, I don't want to see anybody suffering. And this is hard stuff. And maybe I can give you 5 minutes or a few minutes. But just to know that someone's out there makes a big difference. I know that's been my experience when I've needed somebody, when I needed some contact. There's people that can really help out. So I don't know about the other ones and stuff. We have a line that is for kids deserve dads. I don't remember my actual office line because I never freaking use it. So, but I do think we need to get something like that going, and I could set up a Google phone number and stuff, John. So we need to get something like that going,
Yeah.
like immediately.
And for those that I also, you may have seen it on that little business card that you guys used in the promo, that I have a Calendly link, and I pass that to everybody because they can schedule a call with me. I noticed that some of the guys, especially guys that I'd actually spoken to before, they weren't calling. And I'd be, they'd finally get really desperate and they'd get me back on the line. And I'd be like, why haven't you called me sooner? And they're like, oh, you're so busy. There are so many other deserving fathers that need help. I really didn't want to bother you. And I was so that's when I decided the Calendly link was the way to go. It gives people the opportunity to know that you've scheduled an appointment with me. That time is blocked off for you. That's your time.
Right.
You have 40 minutes of my dedicated time that is yours and yours alone, and that's worked out pretty well for me. Most of the guys are able to get a hold of me, and I mean, I'm back to averaging about 3 calls a day using that Calendly link, and people schedule in advance. And I mean, there are times where I have blocked off now. That's one advantage to doing it with the Calendly link over having a crisis hotline where I was answering 24/7. I know in advance when I have a call, and I can be prepared, and I can be in the right place, in the right state of mind. I mean, a lot of times with those crisis calls, I'm sound asleep in bed when it rang, and I mean,
right, that's when the crisis hits, right? When they're
right,
laying in bed at night, not able to sleep, thinking about all the things that are going on, things that are missing, things that they wish they had, that they wanted to have, and what they thought life was going to be like, and it's all falling apart. And and a phone call when you're fast asleep or waking up to it, how effective are you as a coach in those moments? But when you have a scheduled call, you can be infinitely better, right?
absolutely, especially being a lot of times in those calls I manage to schedule it as a Zoom call. And some guys are uncomfortable, and I just do phone calls, but the Zoom calls, you can actually look me in the eye. We look at each other and we talk to each other, and you can see what's going on with the other person rather than having to guess based on tonal inflection and things of that nature. Which is another reason why I'm not really comfortable a lot of times doing a lot of communicating via text, because a lot gets lost in text. So
Yeah,
I did want
emotions and stuff to it.
Sorry, just ask Adam. He said there needs to be real support, and I completely agree with that statement. I was just curious what kind of support specifically he might be talking about.
That's a good question.
Having a conversation.
Yeah, that's one of the first things I have
If
to
Adam's
ask
still here.
people. One of the first things I have to ask people is, what are your expectations for the call? To make sure that I'm not giving them a bunch of information that doesn't do help for them.
Right.
I agree with Casey. And again, that's why I think, seeing as we seem to be feeding into that, I'm going to go ahead and preach my if you guys don't mind, I'm going to
Yeah,
preach my
preach.
little my little thing, and that's that. At one point, many years ago, when I was taking psychology and stuff, I was working with the National Alliance for the Mentally Ill, NAMI, and I ran support groups for them. And I saw this wonderful peer support network that they had built all over the country. So when I started doing this with fathers, I started thinking, there's nothing out there like this for people that are going through, divorce and custody situations. And this is, I mean, well, I shouldn't say there's nothing. I'm trying to look and see where it is. There is a thing called divorce. Geez, I can't think of what it's run through churches. It's a divorce class that you can go to, and I went to it. The problem I found with that was that I'd say 80% of the men showed up for one meeting and left and never came back. So I started talking to guys out in the parking lot, and the problem was it was okay, for somebody with a psychology background, it's hard for me to say, but the psychology field has gotten a little off track as far as men's needs. And this course was obviously written by somebody with a psychology background, and everything was geared towards their ex's needs, the women's needs and stuff, and the children's needs, which of course is important. But there
Right.
there was almost no recognition of men's needs in these situations. It was always like, you're a man, you need to just buck it up, pull your pants up, and tough it out. And it's like, a lot of these guys were just frustrated because they're in pain, they're struggling, and everybody's just telling them to toughen up,
Oh.
be a man. So I mean, that's when I decided this is what we need. We need something that recognizes the issues that men have in these situations, and provide them support. So
I just
So Adam said.
completely agree. So
Adam
powerful to get
answered
that.
on that note. Sorry, Zach. Didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I think it's so powerful. It's okay. I think it's so powerful to get that support. I think you go to psychologists, and I've heard this in numerous different places and stuff. And I think it's a different talk for a different day about, well, I don't know, maybe today, but about what psychology has gone to and stuff. And that I think it's aligned with feelings and the woman's perspective, and it's mostly ran by women, and that seems to be the predominant avenue that this takes, and that guys do things differently. It's why I'm building a men driven fatherhood course and doing men focused stuff. Is that a lot of things that I see that are out there. I do supervised visits and exchanges and stuff, and the reason I do these things is that what women do is designed towards how women act and see the world and treat the world, and that there needs to be a perspective and a program designed to help dads do things the way that men do things, and we do it differently. And to think that we're like women light, or or we just need to do it more like women and we'd be more successful, that doesn't really play into what made us men for the last 10 million years, and we're going to continue to be men after all of this stuff is gone, and those still things or traits are still going to be in us, and they're still going to be necessary for us to be successful and grow. And women want those traits in men. They don't want to have women light, they want to have men. They want strong men who are capable and focused and committed and passionate. And how do we get them that and everything and still function in the society that is designed towards supporting women over everything else?
if I could propose a thought here, it would be that, and this is again difficult to say, and because I can imagine the blowback, but it's important to hear this, and that's that men, whenever two men are talking together, there's always the possibility of violence. It's always an inferred possibility. I mean, that's just the way men are. There's a possibility. So we have learned to control our emotions, not be over the top, not to be confrontational, not to be, and these are good things. I mean, this is what keeps us from being constantly in war, to constantly be fighting one another, to constantly be causing problems for one another. Um, I mean, and again, this is a broad, there are obviously always going to be examples of people who are not like that. But for the most part, us men, we always know that, hey, we've got to be polite with one another because there's a chance of violence here.
Right.
You tick the other person off, they may just haul off and punch you,
Yeah.
you know?
Right.
And so we've learned to, and yet it's been flipped here recently through psychology and the media that, oh, we don't express our emotions and stuff. Well, no, of course we don't. Now, have some of us gone overboard and we don't express our emotions at all? Absolutely. Or we only express them when we just can't hold it in anymore and when we explode. And that's a problem
Right.
as well. So yes, we need to learn to work through our emotions, feel our emotions, and then respond to them instead of reacting to them, which is
Mhm.
one of the things I spend a lot of time working with my guys on is, it's like, hey, having those emotions is normal. Having
Right.
dark thoughts is normal. I
Yep.
mean, I've had people ask me before when somebody gets up in my face, I'm an HOA uh, representative, have been the president for a number of years. People get up in your
You
face and
guys.
threaten you and scream and holler at you, and people say, how do you, how do you tolerate that? And I say, in my mind, I just choke slammed him, and I'm in his face giving him hell.
Right.
And they
Right.
look at me kind of funny, and I'm like, no, seriously, I
It's all
honestly, in
up
my mind,
here.
but in real life, I'm standing there calm, cool, collected. Okay,
Right.
I hear
Because really,
you. And
what is this
you
guy gonna
reflect
do,
back.
right? He's expressing his frustration, his experience, and just because he's frustrated and stressed by whatever's going on in his experience does not mean that you have to take that energy on that he has, right?
Correct.
I'm capable and I'm fine, and if you escalate this beyond you yelling at me, I'm gonna choke slam you. No, I've already
Exactly.
seen how it happens.
I've
Mindfulness,
So
already
like
seen how it
Daniel said,
happens.
being mindful.
You know,
Mindfulness.
so that's
yeah,
exactly right, Daniel. Thank you. Yeah, that
yeah,
mindfulness is, and it's funny because a lot of times when I say mindfulness to people, people think of, sitting, in a lotus position, and stuff. That's one kind of mindfulness, but mindfulness is also just everyday thinking. I mean, when those invasive thoughts pop into your head, you say, okay, I wonder what
right,
that's about. And be curious about it, but don't feel like you have to act on every thought that pops into your head. That's
right.
mindfulness.
Mindfulness. Yeah, yeah. How are you showing up? How are you reacting to the things that are going on around you, like your kids and everything else? And I think, he went into Adam went into. I think guys do need hugs, and they need their friends and men that are in their lives to give them a hug and also help point them in the right direction. Right, a good hug goes a long way.
Guys,
And
I, I
I
missed that
I
one.
I
Sorry.
like a good guy hug, because guys got a firm embrace and stuff, and then a kick in the ass, right? Guys want to you know what? Hey, a hug helps me out to help me to get back into my place and be focused again and connected and know that I have support from this person. And when you give somebody a hug and stuff, like, yes, that's a vulnerable place to be in when you lean into somebody and you give yourself in that fashion with your arms out wide and not protecting yourself. That's a vulnerable place to be at. And and then to have that person also support you in achieving the things that you need to have in your life, exactly as you said. Like, guys need direction and purpose. How are you going to move yourself from this place right now where you need this hug because you can't do it, and into the spot where you're going to be at, where you're going to actually have the life that you dream and want? And it's not
Perfect.
easy.
And
Yeah.
I mean, everybody has to
It can
understand
be.
too. I mean,
Go ahead.
there's
Sorry.
not. You have to act, right?
Hmm.
You're gonna, and I feel like somebody like Shawn is going to give validation, the real life advice,
Right.
Well,
tips, tricks, things to solve whatever problem it might be. And I mean, there's nobody in the world that's going to be able to fix whatever situation is for you.
I tell the guys all the time. It's like, look, I can give you all sorts of advice, but you're the one that actually has to act on it, and you're the one that actually has to live with the results.
Right.
So, I mean, and I worry because I see people out there all the time on the internet who are giving really bad advice to guys in our situation. And I'm just like, it scares me because it's like, I mean, they can offer that kind of really bad advice because if somebody takes it, it doesn't affect them in their lives, not directly
Right.
anyway.
No.
So, I mean, everybody that I give advice to, I always preface it with the understanding that everything that I offer is for you to accept or reject as you please. You take it as I'm offering it to you. You're the one that actually has to live with the results of whatever you choose to do with what I've talked to you about. So,
Right.
yeah, that's
Do you give much advice, or do you try to help them find the answers for themselves? Are you more like
it
question
depends.
oriented?
It depends. I do try to I try to do a lot of mirroring, mirror back what they're saying to me so that I make sure I understand what their issues are. And then, yeah, most of the guys, and it took me a little while to learn this, to be honest with you, was that most of the guys eventually they solve their own problems. They
Right.
figure it out. They can figure it out. So yeah, no, most of the time I don't. Now, when people get really stuck and they start ruminating, going back over and over and over and over the same thing again and again, that's when the advice has to kick in. That's when it's like, you gotta bap, smack them upside the head, give them the old proby slap upside the back of their head, and it's like, okay, proby, listen up. You're not catching on here. I need to get your attention, and then you know, I see Chuck's name up here. He's had to be the recipient of the Proby slap a few times, and he,
I can imagine Chuck needing the Proby slap. What? Not Chuck.
He'll probably admit to it too.
no,
I
he
mean,
will. He will.
Yeah, no,
I
I
wouldn't
am
have said
sure
that
he
out
would.
loud on here if I haven't heard him admit it many times. So, I
Please slap
mean,
me, Shawn, because I need it right now. That would be how. And then he'd wipe
okay,
his face with a towel. That's how he does it, right? So.
right, right. And actually, I don't think I've ever actually physically Proby slapped him, but I mean, we're talking in terms of a
sounds like a bad
metaphorical
idea.
Proby slap.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the metaphorical, I mean, and to be honest with you, he doesn't, I mean, none of the guys that I end up having to Proby slap like it very much when it first happens. The first reaction usually is, how dare you?
Right.
But they all come back afterwards and go, yeah, you're right. You're right. Thank you. Thank you for, being there for me, being able to say the hard things to me that I really didn't want to hear. And
One,
Blunt force.
it's so powerful,
body
like that,
slow
having that, like
Shawn Pearson.
getting those hard things said, right? Like I think a lot of people that are in your life, and I think a lot of what guys are disenfranchised with is that the hard things aren't said. Like the truth of what goes on in family court aren't told to people when they start going into it very often, and the difficulties that you're gonna face are like sugar coated, and they get advice from people who
yes,
don't want to tell them the hard truth that like you're about to go into war. And you talk to people that are in the military. I think there was just a Fox News report out by the CDC and stuff that 90% of the guys that are killing themselves are going through family dispute issues that are in the veteran suicide statistics, right? And they're like,
Yeah.
right.
these guys went to war and were in Afghanistan and Iraq and seeing like awful stuff happen to their friends and people around them and doing things that you would never do anywhere else but in that situation. And then they come home and they face family court and they can't handle it.
Right.
I was diagnosed with PTSD after coming back from overseas, and honestly, I've said it many times and I mean it. Family court was worse. No question about it. At least going over there, I knew I was going into something really, really, really hard and painful. Going into family court, I don't know. I mean, even though I'd been through it back in 1988, I still had this idea that it was going to be different. Things were going to be better now.
It's gonna be fair. It'll be
Right,
fine. I'm a
right.
good dad.
I'll be
I'll
fine.
be able. It'll be fine.
The truth will win out. I think
Yeah.
if you look back over my Facebook page to 2015, 2016, you can probably find posts where I said I'm not worried. The truth will win out.
Right.
Mm.
Unfortunately, I was unaware that judges are, I mean, they're human beings. I wasn't thinking about that, and they're there to render opinions.
Yeah.
You know, they're not automatons that just automatically look at everything black and white. And I mean, I've joked with people sometimes. It's like, well, do you want AI to take over for the courts then? You know, and I get mixed reactions on that. But no, judges, they bring their own set of biases, their own opinions. I've said many times, I could take the exact same case into 10 different courtrooms. Sometimes you could even do it in the same courthouse if it's a big enough courthouse, and you're going to get back 10 different results.
Yeah. Right.
You know, and
the day's a variable, right? Like, did they get some from their wife the night before? You know, like, or are they having a hard go and stuff? Like, all these things are bring challenges. I
somebody
mean,
pissing their Wheaties that morning back in the cafeteria. Yeah, I
yeah.
mean,
Chuck has a
yeah.
good question.
Which one? Oh man,
This one.
yeah.
How do you
just-
teach a father how to comprehend family court and deal with their circumstances day
Chuck,
in,
he's going to hit me with the
day out?
hard questions. Yeah.
Oh, it's just how does that not
Well-
overwhelm you processing everybody's traumas?
I think it's just about like anything else that you do. When you do it and you continue doing something long enough, you develop boundaries and you develop the ability to partition yourself from those things and step away. You know, I mean,
Right.
psychiatrists and psychologists that deal with, you know, people who are mentally insane do not last very long unless they can learn to partition and compartmentalize. That's the word I was actually looking for. Compartmentalize, so that when you go home, you're not thinking about that stuff anymore. And the same thing happens with me. I mean, I keep really good notes. I now have been using an AI thing in my Zoom sessions that it takes notes for me so that I can actually focus more on my callers and less on my note taking. And
Fathom.
then what? Yeah. Fathom. And actually, there's another one that's I've been testing a little bit too that comes with Zoom. It's just an
Okay.
AI. I forget what they call it, but they have their own version as well.
Okay. Wow.
So I've been testing them both out, and they both work wonderfully well. I hate to admit it, but I get back better notes than I ever.
No doubt. I do this.
Nice.
That's why I use that. I use Fathom also, like for our
Yeah,
board
there's
meetings
the
and stuff.
summary,
So.
the summaries that come back. I mean, and mind you, I went to school, and I mean, I learned how to do, you know, patient summaries and stuff, and the summaries coming from coming from that AI are actually as good or better than anything I've ever produced. So,
Wow.
Yeah,
and
they
that's
are
how
good. It's a scary thing how good AI is, right? Like, wow, it's new and it's this good already. It's gonna be so good.
What were you going to say, Alyssa?
I don't know. I was gonna ask Zach if ever in, just listening to somebody or talking to somebody, he kind of if it pulls him back into his own experiences, because that's happened to me before. Just even like, filing paperwork. Here's the process. This is what you need to do. This is what you have to have. Even if it's just explaining something simple like that. I don't have that total ability to compartmentalize like you were just talking about, and so it kind of pulls you.
Honestly,
Pulls you-
Alicia, every single call that happens to me,
Okay, that's
where
what I was
where
asking
every
Zach, is if
single call that happens to me, where I start reliving my trauma to some degree or another, and I have to be mindful, as the conversation earlier, I have to be mindful of that and remind myself that, take a deep breath, Shawn. This isn't your trauma. This is their trauma. And,
Right.
that's how I compartmentalize. It's just being mindful of the fact that that effect's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's normal. I mean, I can't think of a single call where it hasn't happened to some degree or another.
Right.
So there is no just shutting it out.
Yeah.
Would you agree
I
with that?
completely agree. I think completely agree. Every time I get guy and stuff, I'm right there with him. Like I feel the experience, and one of the things I tell everybody that I talk to is that like I'm as safe as a safe place gets. You know, like you can't say something to me that I haven't thought of something on that level or worse, and you're not going to shock me with the thing that comes out of your mouth because I felt all the pain and hurt and sadness and anger, all those feelings, I felt them. And one of the things that's helped me in this process to get to where I am today, and I think the same thing, you would say the same thing also, is that having felt all those things and really been in them, not just like being angry and like losing my control, but being in control of my anger and recognizing where that anger came from and the experience I was having, the moment to set me off and to really, really to be mindful of that experience and why I was there and what was happening to me, helped me to release those feelings and do a better job of catching them before I got to that spot where I was so angry about what was happening, because I was angry for a long time. I was hurt. I was destroyed by this experience, and it brought me down to the worst place I've ever been in my whole entire life. Um, and I had to put it all back together with a kid and extra responsibilities, and you know, life kept going on, but it only got more challenging, and I built a bigger platter to work with. So I think one of the things we talk about, the stuff that we're doing with people and that kind of stuff, and overall in this process, when somebody gives you that first call, you talk to them that first time and stuff. What kind of advice do you give? Like, you had that first call, you know, you listen to their story, you give them some, what are the things that you tell them to do? Like, what should everybody be doing for themselves going through this experience?
Good question. Obviously, I listened intently. I mean, there have been honestly, most calls, the first 45 minutes, I rarely get in a word. You know,
Mhm.
it's mostly mirroring what they're saying so that they know that I'm hearing them and things of that nature. So advice really doesn't become a thing. Um, if somebody asks for specific advice, obviously I'll offer it. And it's usually around like an attorney, you know, like what do I do? You know, and that's I have plenty of advice around how to get an attorney. You know, I mean, I think I've shared with Zach, and I don't know if I've had this conversation with Alicia, but I have a little metaphor that I like to share with people. It's like if you're looking to sell widgets in Bulgaria, do you think you need an interpreter or don't you? You know, and everybody always goes, "Oh, well, of course." I says, "Yeah, because you don't understand the language or the customs, and that's exactly why you need an attorney. The thing you
Mhm.
don't need is an interpreter that's trying to sell widgets. So you have to
Right.
understand that your interpreter is your interpreter. He understands he or she, in the case of an attorney, needs to they understand the customs and language of the court, but it's your widgets you're trying to sell. So you need to have a serious conversation around what needs to be done to sell widgets with this person, and they then communicate that to the customer, which is the judge or the court.
Mhm.
You know, so
Makes sense.
it's very that's the kind of advice I usually give. I love more metaphors and storytelling.
I love
So
that one, and you know what? We're gonna make a reel of that bad boy and put that out there. So because that is some really fantastic
It's a good one.
advice, and it's such a great way to think about it, because some people are like, I do this myself and I know what I'm doing, you know, and I can do this and I can figure it all out and stuff. And sure, can you learn to speak Bulgarian? Yes, it's a language and you could figure it all out. But do you have
It'll
the
take a
time?
while.
And at the end of this, how much did you waste time and effort to learn a language that you're only going to use in this one situation, when really all you need is somebody who understands you and is willing to work with you to get you the results you want to get, and
right,
to set a real expectation of what's really possible, not to sugarcoat stuff and lie to you about, you know what, we can get all these things that you want, whether that's true or not. You know, to have somebody who's going to be honest with you and realistic about what to expect and how to set those expectations about what life is going to get. So
Yeah.
And then to
Especially not
kind of go
somebody
along
just
with
go
what
ahead.
Adam says there is that then, I mean, I do have I picked up a lot of knowledge about specific little details here and there and stuff? Sure, I have. But there's no way any one person can know all this stuff. Not even an
Yeah, it's
attorney.
impossible.
It's
All the states
there's
have
no
different
way.
rules, and they
Right.
have different groups that help out. Like there's a place in Wyoming that does civil support. Equal Justice Wyoming, a great service that's done. Lawyers do free work.
I
It's a
gotta disagree
program
with you.
run by. Well, they do free work. It's a half-hour meeting,
I
but if you're gonna
know,
fill out
I
forms and
know,
stuff,
and I know, but
they can help put.
I
It's
think,
better than you doing it all by yourself and having no direction. Did
yeah,
you use
but
them?
I every Thursday at the courthouse. Oh, it was only once a month, I'm pretty sure. No, I went and I
Yeah,
checked them out a couple times, and I just
it's
felt
twice a month
like
now in most places, but
they were just
what'd you feel
trying to
like?
get their volunteer hours, maybe, and they weren't.
Well, there's no requirement for volunteer hours, so it's like a suggestion
Or
that
what?
lawyers should. It's a should
Oh,
and
you
not a
don't have to do
must.
pro bono anything.
Heck no, you don't gotta do pro bono. I just
All
took the
right. Well,
ethics
my point
test and I
is,
passed it. And fees. That was the theme of the ethics exam
right.
for lawyers. And so, how do
I
you
don't know how they
keep and
get
maintain
roped
your
into it,
fees? I think
but
I think it's because
they
they actually
don't
care.
care. Yeah.
That was good. Thanks. That
I'll,
was
I'll be
awesome.
honest with you. Most of the feedback that I give people when they talk about, well, where do I find a free attorney is that honestly, I've never met anyone that was happy with the service they got from a free attorney.
No.
That's just
And that's
personal.
mostly because they think they're going to get somebody for free that's going to bust their tail for them and be their, dedicated advocate, et cetera, and that's just not going to happen. Now, can you use an attorney, a free attorney, to help you, to educate you, to help you along your way? Absolutely, if you can find one. But
Right.
To
The
go
thing I
back to
recommend
say
people
real
doing.
quick though,
Go ahead.
Equal Justice Wyoming, and there's Equal Justice. I mean, they do it in every county and they do it in a lot of states. And I think maybe those attorneys are more interested in engaging with stuff that has nothing to do with family law.
That
Maybe
can be true
that's
too.
where they put their energy.
Well, family law is difficult, and it is not like
Right. Most of them don't
straightforward.
want to
Like,
deal with it.
if you're gonna go there and you're gonna do a contract dispute, that's a very simple, straightforward. This
Right.
is right. This it's black letter law. This is it. This is that. It's all it is. And there's no gray area. And family law is, well, this judge's decision on this day could vary based on what he had for breakfast or if his wife had sex with him. And or didn't, because if he's married and you're a judge, probably not having sex with that guy. But so. And so that's that. Those kind of things weigh on those people, and it's different. What I recommended people do, and I heard some guys' success in Wyoming for this stuff, is like getting advice on like, what do I file next? I'm gonna do this stuff on my own. I'm looking for some advice. Here's the steps where I'm at, and every 2 weeks you can go in there and you can get support on like what forms to print off, what forms to fill out, how do I
Right.
fill this form
Yeah.
out properly. Other real advice on like how to like win a case in family law. They don't have that kind of time or effort, and I do think Todd's right that donating that time and doing that pro bono work for a group like Equal Justice is definitely a good thing on their resume for promotions, and it shows that they're engaged in the community and stuff outside of just the clients who pay them money to take care of their people and stuff. So, but I think that that advice stuff that Shawn was talking about. I always, when I get a phone call from anybody, and I get them, I get probably a half dozen to a dozen or so a week from guys that are going through the experience and stuff. And one of the things I always talk about with guys is that this is going to be the toughest challenge we're facing and stuff. And you have to be the strongest, best version of yourself to get through this. And that if you don't work out, if you aren't doing anything physical in your life, if you just sit on the couch, if you just go to the computer and you work a desk job and you come home and you sit on the couch and watch some TV and you go to sleep, you need to start pushing your body, because this is going to be mentally, emotionally draining and destructive on your soul. And if you can't handle those kind of things, you're going to be in big trouble. And so it's important that you step up and start taking care of yourself. And if you're not in the gym, if you're not working out, if you're not taking care of yourself, if you're not eating properly, that this is the most important time in your life that you need to learn and adopt these skills and traits in your experience. Like going to the gym and taking on your physicality is going to help you overcome. If you're going through a really hard thing and you're emotionally spent and you're angry and tired and sad and destroyed, you know what? The best cries I've had have been with a weight bench in front of me, and I lay back and I push that thing up as hard as I can, as long as I can, and no one's watching me, no one's really looking at me, I'm not a pretty girl, so no one's staring at me while I'm out there having my moment and stuff. So, and so it's really important to take on that stuff. Meal prepping. Most people are out there cooking up food, going and getting fast food, going out to eat. Take the time. Prep yourself some food. Give yourself that luxury. Taco meat and rice is delicious. It's the greatest meal ever created by man. Thank you. I don't know whoever invented taco meat, but I love it, and I highly recommend that you guys get on that stuff. Give yourself a nice, good, solid, high-protein meal, and fill yourself up and go push yourself and do it. Shawn, you were frozen for like 5 minutes, and I thought you were just really enjoying the conversation that Alicia and I were having, and then you were gone.
I noticed that I was frozen, and I was trying to figure out what was going on, and I fooled with the wrong thing, and it just blinked me out, and I had to come back in. I was like, okay, I could hear everything you guys were talking about, so I was
Awesome,
doing fine
awesome.
with that, and then all of a sudden it was like, bam! All of a sudden,
and you're gone.
It was like,
Chuck,
oh god,
I think,
I'm gone.
very good question.
Todd, I'm waiting on the girl with the camera trying to catch me making a fool of myself. Also to catch me as I lose the weights and they drop off on video, and then she can put it up there and talk about the kind of guys. Yeah, the spotter. Oh yeah, and Chuck's talking too.
I'm glad they don't do that. They didn't do that stuff back when I was always working out at the gym, because I mean there would be plenty of videos of me being awkward in the gym. I mean,
no way, not Shawn being awkward. I can't even imagine that. You know what? I have never seen anybody at any of my gyms that I go to with a camera out. I mean, maybe taking like a selfie, and putting on their Snapchat and that kind of stuff. But no one's ever like had a tripod out there with their ring light filming their production. So thank goodness. But
that's good.
It looks like it happens though.
Yeah.
If you watch Instagram. So all right,
Chuck has a really good question for Shawn.
What's the most challenging part of what you do day in and day out, Shawn, in supporting fathers?
You know what? I'm going to be seeing Chuck on Thursday, and I'm going to strangle him. I'm just kidding. Day in and day out. I don't know that there is I think it's the. Okay, I think I know what the most challenging part is easily that when this first happens to us, many of us are really angry. And we can be pretty toxic. I mean, some of the pages, like the tough page, for instance, I mean, I can only read just so many comments before I have to just, as long as I've been doing this, I still get to the point where, and I've noticed that I don't, if I've got a bad headache, I better not comment, because somebody will say something and I'll say something really ugly, which is, anybody who knows me knows that's not really my character, but I have dark thoughts too, just like everybody else does. I just don't usually voice them, and every once in a while.
You're saying that holding your tongue is one of the hardest parts?
Yes. It really just, empathizing and reminding myself that I was there where they are now. And I think a lot of new advocates that come in, that's the first thing they struggle with. And I think that's where he was going with this is they see people acting out in frustration at the circumstances that they're faced with. And the new advocates they're like, stop acting like an idiot. Well, that's not going to help. I mean, nobody in the history of calm down ever calmed down because somebody told them to calm down.
Right.
So
calm down. You're acting out of control right now.
yeah, you pretty much have to like say, I mean, and he's witnessed me doing it. I mean, I pace. I mean, sometimes I'll get right in there with you. You know, wow, that really sucks. Damn, you must be really angry about that. And oh man, I know. I remember exactly how that felt, and I'll raise my voice and I'll get right up there with them. And then I'll slowly bring it back down again. But
Right.
that's challenging. I mean, it's not always easy because then if they continue, now my heart rate's up and I'm excited and the adrenaline has started pumping into my system. I got that norepinephrine going and yeah,
You're in the situation somebody could punch one or the other in the face.
right.
That's what you were talking about before.
Exactly.
That's why
But
that's why we're
fight
on
or flight
Zoom.
going in the
So
background, and I mean, honestly, I mean, I don't know how many times I've gotten off a call and I go over and I pump some iron for a while to to get the head out of my system, or I go for a long walk or something because it's like I got to get that out of my system. Hopefully, none of them realize that. But yes, it definitely is. It can definitely. What's this? Helping others, saying the tough things the right way is tough. It's not what you say, but how you say it. Yeah, exactly. I mean,
Yeah.
and that becomes a matter of I made plenty of mistakes early on. I'll be honest. When I first started the crisis line, I didn't always handle those calls as well as I would like to have. But each time I made a mistake, I learned from it. And that's how I always take my mistakes. I mean, I make mistakes. I tell my sons, I'm sure they're tired of hearing me say, you know what, I make one mistake, at least one mistake every single day. So I mean, and that's the way I treat these calls too. I mean, I know in my heart I'm doing the best that I can to help each person I'm talking to. And if I say something wrong, I'll just apologize, own that hey, you know what? I shouldn't have said that way. Here, let's back that up a bit. And then, let's talk our way through this again. And, you get through it. But I mean, again, I wasn't that person when I started 8 years, 9, 10 years ago. When I first got going on this stuff, I wasn't that person. I didn't always get it right. I mean, I'm sure there are people out there in this world right now that if they see this video, they'll go, wait a minute, he wasn't that way with me, because there are people,
Maybe
I
you
mean,
weren't.
absolutely. I mean, I
Right.
figured out one day that, averaging at least 3 calls a day for 8 years, that's over 10,000 calls. You're not going to get it right every time in 10,000 calls. You just aren't. Getting on the
right.
stage is the hardest part. It's what, yeah, I agree. And
Right.
I'll be frank with you. For the longest time, every time that phone rang, I had moments of anxiety. That where I'm picking up the phone, I have no idea what I'm about to go into, especially on a crisis line, because there's a good chance the person on the other end of the line is suicidal in that moment. So you can't make mistakes. That's the sense you get, is like, I can't make a mistake. If I do, somebody could die, and that's even worse.
Wow.
Right.
So
But just by
those,
being there, right? Like just by being present with that person, like
yeah, I've told people ask me,
they need
and I wrote courses on how to do it, and the most important thing you do is listen.
When you were talking earlier, oh, we lost him.
Yeah, he was breaking
What's
up there
going
for a
on with
minute.
everybody's internet? I don't know.
I don't know.
But it just reminds me of, and I think it's kind of, more of a new age thing, but like even in any situation, whether it's your kid or your friend or your spouse or, whoever, they bring an issue to you, and that is one of the great questions to ask is, do you want me to listen or do you want my advice?
Yes.
And like before I ever even heard that concept, I never never thought about it. Never thought about it. But just an ear and being able to pour out onto somebody with whatever it is, especially in these situations, it's so valuable. It's absolutely valuable.
There's a little acronym that I also teach guys for when they're dealing with their kids, especially when their kids are challenging them, when they're getting back into their lives and stuff. And it's EAR, EAR. I think I stole that from Bill Eddy, the high conflict guy guy who has written several books and stuff. But of course, I'd heard it before, but I started implementing it into this. But it goes to what you're saying too. I mean, anytime you're dealing with somebody, if you show them empathy, attention, and respect, you've got them.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what every caller needs when somebody does call you, and you're helping people. Just show them empathy, attention, and respect, and the rest of it's easy. I mean, like I said, I don't like giving advice. I really struggle with giving advice, and it's funny because I've had a couple guys, including Chuck, tell people, "Oh yeah, he's really hard on me," and that breaks my heart every time I hear that, because I'm like, wait a minute, I am. And then he's like, no, you do it with love though. And it's like, yeah, okay. I feel a little bit better, but
You're just really nice at saying, pull your head out of your ass, or, stop this or that. I don't know.
right. Well, yeah, like the ruminating thing. I mean, that's one that a lot of guys get caught up in. They continue to replay the same tape over and over and over again. I remember doing it myself. And it really, you've got to break that. And I mean, I love that Zach loves to work out and stuff, because that's one of the things I tell people all the time. It's like, your mental health really depends on your physical health. You got to be eating right, sleeping right, and getting exercise. If you're not doing those things, then you're going to be a mental wreck no matter what.
Totally.
So
if you can't sleep at night, if you go work out really hard and you kick the crap out of yourself, you will fall asleep because you are exhausted.
yeah,
You can go that hard, and that will help you get a good night's sleep, and that will help you do better mentally the next day. And then it's a snowball in the right direction, as opposed to where you snowball yourself mentally, beating yourself up, running through all the possible scenarios that could happen and all the things that could go wrong. And you go out there and you push towards something that's going to be better, and if you're in there doing those things, you're going to set yourself up for success. And coming from experience and coming from I have had a hard time at many different phases of my life to do that. I have been 280 pounds a couple of times in my life. And going through this experience, I reached 275 pounds twice, as my son's 7 years of his life. And those are hard times. And the work that it's taken in both those times to get back down to 200 pounds or so, which is an appropriate weight for me, has taken a lot of effort and energy. And every time that I've done it, I've only been better for that experience. And my intention is to maintain that this time around and let myself get back to that spot. And life, it's just a life opportunity every time to keep coming back to it and keep growing on it. But you're going to do better. Like Shawn said, if you're working out, if you're going to the gym, it's going to help you out immensely. Eating right, getting sleep, those are the things that are going to support you in being in this experience of fighting to be your kid's dad as best and as much as you possibly can.
absolutely.
Because I think, Shawn, you tell people they need to control themselves, right? Like, there's an impression, and I tell guys a lot of times, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, but that in this experience, you as a dad, you have to be perfect. Like, there's an expectation that you can't have a blow up on a text and say all these mean things and hurtful things. Whether she says all those things or not, it's not going to necessarily have that impact on her. But that as a dad, you have to be perfect. You don't have that room. And so you got to find those outlets in other places. Would you agree with me on that?
Absolutely. And it's one of the reasons why all my guys know that they can reach out to me if they have that moment where they want to lash out and stuff like that. They know they can get a hold of me, and it's like, yell at me, yell at me. Don't yell at her. Yell at me. I'll listen to you and we'll work it out. But I mean, don't yell at her, because that's not going to get you anywhere you want to be.
Right.
No. Send Shawn that angry text saying all that hurtful, mean things and stuff. He can take it. He will read it, and he will oh my gosh, I'm messing up my words right now.
Compartmentalize.
He will compartmentalize that in the right space, and then he'll support you in releasing that and moving forward. So
and in some cases, there's definitely people out there that Thanks, Daniel. There's actually guys out there that do, ask for feedback. It's like, so if I can't say that, what should I say? And
Mhm.
I'm more than happy to present a couple of ideas. It's like, well, you
Right.
need to put this in your words, but here's what I would say. And then, and I've found that a lot of guys really appreciate that. I'm not telling them, look, you have to tell them this, because if they say it in my words, the other person on the other end's going to know that something's up. So, I always try to say, hey, look, reword it, but here's the gist of what you need. You're trying to get this across, right? And then they come back and say either yes or no. And when I figure out what it is they're trying to get across, then I just say, okay, so try wording it this way. And I find that it really works. I mean, most of the guys really respond to that. Yeah, don't blast it on social media. Yeah, because even when you're
Heard you.
me and you're coming across very intelligently and you're trying to keep it under control and you think you're doing a good job, it'll still show up in court as you're bullying. No matter how you word it, it's still bullying, and it will show
Yeah.
up in court as you're being a bully.
Yeah.
So
It will
yeah,
show up in court. If you put
David?
anything on social media, it will show up in court. You can bet on it. Everybody who is out there, people who might be your friend on Facebook are not your friends in real life. And they will share that with somebody who wants to get you because, they want the attention. A lot of people like that negative drama type stuff and want to be involved in all that garbage and get off on spreading the crap that you're doing. And you will have friends on Facebook who are not your friends in real life, and they will go out there and they will purposely use what you post to hurt you. And so
yes,
don't give anybody that opportunity. And the person who's out there against you, they are not your friend. Unfortunately, they're not your friend. They're not on your team. They might have been your wife, but the moment that you're going to court, that person is your enemy, and you have got to protect yourself from your enemy. You cannot let your guard down and give up space of who you are and how you're feeling in their presence. And putting that stuff, putting that presence out there is dangerous. And so you have got to take care of yourself and protect yourself, and you cannot allow any opportunities for anybody to come into that zone. That needs to be a zone for only safe spaces and for confidants that you have, like Shawn and
right.
others who are out there to coach you, because they are the only ones you can trust.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna say
That
amen
was
to
that was a very important thing that I wanted everybody to hear for sure. I did want to address what David had to say here, and yeah, I mean, this kind of goes back to the nobody ever calmed down in the history of calming down because somebody told them to calm down. It's the same thing's true with depression. I mean, if you're
Right.
depressed, somebody telling you, well, don't be depressed, or hey, you need to go to the gym, that's not necessarily going to be that helpful. So
Right.
it
Be more
definitely,
positive.
right, it's
Stop
definitely
being
more
negative.
along the lines of, yeah, you need to be more positive. That doesn't really help. I mean, so, I mean, and again, the people that I've worked with know that the first thing I do with them is I try to help them process the feelings that they're feeling. It's like, go ahead, talk about it. Let's process it. Let's get through it. You say you're depressed. Can you explain to me what that entails? And then they talk their way through it, and just talking through it is a big help in most cases. And then, it's like, so what can you do? What kind of things do you think you can do that will help you the next time you feel this way? And they talk their way through that. And that's the good part of psychology that came from, cognitive behavioral therapy, for instance, is where the basis behind that, which ironically has its core in Stoicism. A lot of people don't realize that.
Huh.
Hmm.
I did not know that.
Which goes back thousands of years.
Thousands of years. Gosh, I love Stoicism stuff. Have you ever read the books by Ryan Holiday?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah,
Oh,
Ryan's.
my God,
Yeah, I like Ryan.
that
Ryan's
dude's.
got some.
I,
Yeah, he's taken a lot of the stuff from the ancients, the philosophy and stuff like that, particularly the Stoics, and brought it forward into today's thinking in ways that, yeah, I got to be honest with you, I use his stuff all the time in my I mean,
It's so
I
powerful.
get
It's so,
people
and he's
I
like,
get people telling me all the time, "Oh, you're so smart," and and the thought crossing my mind every time somebody says that, it's like, yeah, I know, I just read a lot.
There you go.
I'm working,
right.
I'm learning from other people, and I'm just regurgitating it back out to you, you know. So it's
That's
like,
what being
Com-
smart
com-
is.
completely agree, right? Like, I mean, I listen to podcasts and audios all the time, and like, and my girlfriend likes like true crime audios and stuff, right? And
Oh
I just
yeah.
can't get into that kind of stuff. I like, these are the things like, how do I do this better every time? Like, how do I overcome the things that are in my way every day to being the man that I envision myself being? And every day it's a constant struggle and a constant battle. And I'll never be perfect. I will only just be in the moment, and I get to just do my best, and then I get to reflect, and then if that comes up again, just do better. And these guys have, like, I mean, he does a great job, and the Stoics just have so much knowledge about um, how to show up to be your authentic, true self and achieve the life you want to have. And these guys have spent, their lifetimes philosophizing and theorizing on these things, and then writing it down. And so I think anytime you get a chance to read, anything by Marcus Aurelius and Socrates
that's
and all those great,
whenever I think about all those people, the one that impresses me the most is Marcus Aurelius, because Meditations, that's his journal. He never
yeah,
intended for anybody else to ever read his personal journal. That was stuff he wrote for him, just for
right.
him. He wasn't trying to teach anybody else, or like Socrates or Plato or neither. He was just writing that stuff down for him, for his own purposes. That's what just blows my mind every time I read anything in Meditations. I mean, I regularly will just, I'm feeling down or something like that. I'll just pick up Meditations and just flip it open to a page and just read that one
Yeah.
page. And it's always like, wow. I also use it to humble myself from time to time too. If I'm feeling a little too cocky, I'll pick up Meditations and read it a little bit, because it humbles me really quickly.
Hmm. Well, he's just a powerful guy, right? And he's like, I have all this immense power and this weight on me, right? And how do I do that in a way that humbles that guy? Is a true master. Like, he's one of those guys that, like, you listen to him, and every time I've read his stuff, I love his meditations. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like, whenever I grab the Bible and I read the Bible, or I go to church, I went to church this Sunday and it was great. Whenever I go to those places and I do those things, whatever I turn to, it's freaking something in my life right now that is a challenge for me, and it always hits me hard. Like, I'm like, holy smokes, like, could this message have been any more for me in my life right now? And I don't know if that's like my own personal experience. Maybe I should go to church more often so I don't have that every time. But whenever I go, it hits me, and I'm like,
We started
did
this and you were
they
talking
know
about
how?
there are no
Go ahead,
coincidences.
You know what? You
man.
you just hit on something very powerful, and that's the fact that we as human beings, we make connections. That's what we do. We're prediction machines, and we make connections to things. And the thing is that's another thing I learned about helping people is that I listen to them, and then I just share a story with them, or I use a metaphor. And because I've listened to what they said, I know what they need, essentially the type of thing they want to hear, and then they create a story around what I just told them that relates to
Hmm.
them and their situation. So that's what's happening to you in church. I mean, he's well, he or she, the pastor of your church or priest or whoever, is well versed in, the writings from thousands of years, and they know that these are very powerful narratives that really connect with people. And then you walk in there and you hear one of these narratives being the story being told, and you immediately do what we do. You start making connections. It's like, wow,
Hmm.
I did this
Oh,
or,
but
or
it's more
this
than
and
that.
that. And
It's more than that. It's more than that.
okay, Okay.
I'm gonna respectfully disagree and say it's more than that.
I,
It's
I
not
wouldn't
just
I wouldn't disagree that it's not more than that. I'm just breaking it down to its
psychologically. I'm
core. I'm breaking it
connecting
down
with
to
whatever.
its core basis. We as human beings have created stories all throughout history to explain things that we don't that are unexplainable otherwise. And then
Mhm.
it's up to the person who's reading it and stuff to make that connection to understand it. Now, do we do that through a higher power, or a lot of people believe that we do? And that I have no problem with. I agree completely. I mean, there's something going on here. How do we do that? So I'm not in any way trying to disable that idea that there's a higher power involved. I'm just giving you the basic floor level how it affects you.
Right.
And
What is that called
then
though? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. But
no,
when what's the term for what you're explaining? And let's not use it like in a, you hear a sermon sense or something like that. But
I mean a little bit
what's
like deja vu and things like that. Is that where
no,
you're going with
like
this?
what am I thinking? Like implicit bias or
Oh, okay.
you even in hearing somebody else's story, and it's just
Sure.
like in a, anybody in conversation, some people, most people, most of the time, when you're getting told a story, you go, this is how I relate to this, or this is what happened to
Yes.
me, or this is how it
That's
relates
what
to
I was
my life. What
referring
is
to.
that?
I was
Right. What is that called though? What's the term? There's a term. What is the
yeah.
term?
It escapes me at the moment. It's past my bedtime,
You know what
so
I mean?
I'm gonna
Yeah, I know. You know what I haven't seen show up is your cat. Where are your cats at right now? Because they're not on the
um
camera trying to tell you to go to bed. So
yeah, no. I put them all up in the bedroom earlier because I was like, I'm not gonna have them Zoom bombing me here. So
No
yeah,
interruption.
no, because they
right, you
will.
can go to
They
bed.
will.
I'll be up in a few minutes. You'll be okay.
Yeah.
Sleep
Yeah,
without me.
I had to talk with them. I snuggled with them a little bit and said, "Okay, I'll see you
Yeah,
later." And
Jason,
click,
it's
close the door.
perspective, but
So,
gosh darn it, what is that
but yeah,
called?
we we all make connections. I mean, it's a kind of like our magic power. I
Right.
mean, we do have a magical ability to make connections even when they're not there. I mean, think about music. If somebody plays,
Resonance?
you know,
Did you see that? Is it resonance?
what's
Yeah.
that? Well, let's
I had
let's
to
think
look the
about
meaning of
think
that, but
about think about your favorite song. You play that same song for 10 different people, and you'll get 10 different interpretations of that
right.
song.
Yeah.
So
Centuries by Fall Out Boys.
the really good musicians, the ones who write the really good songs know how to do that. They know how, they just relate a story, and then they leave enough gray area in their story that other people can relate to it the way that they want to.
Hmm.
You'll see a lot of musicians won't ever explain their song. Somebody will try to pin them down.
Right.
What does this song mean? Oh, well, it means whatever you want it to mean. That's the reason.
Right. Right. If I
Because
told you what it meant to me, then you would only see it in that light. And you like that song for what it means to you, not for what it means to me. So, enjoy your meaning, and he can have his, and he can have his, and I will have mine. And what a kick-ass song, right?
it's like "In the Air Tonight" by Phil Collins. I don't know whether you
Uh-huh.
ever heard the legend that went behind that, but there was an actual
Yeah.
story behind it. Yeah, it was. He finally, after a decade or two, finally came out and said, "Yeah, that legend is completely false. That never happened."
Hmm.
But he let it live on for a long time because
Right.
hey, it was powerful. I mean, it gave me chills. I still to this day get chills every time that song comes on. Thinking about that legend, even though I know now it's not true, it still kind of gives me just a little bit of a weird feeling in the back of my mind. It's like, ooh, because I can picture that story that went with it that I was telling myself in my mind based on that legend. I could see it all happening in my head as that song is going, and the mood that it creates. So yeah.
Right. And I think that's kind of, to bring this back to like family court and stuff, that's how people like see their experience of family court, right? They have their own story that they tell and stuff about their experience in family court, and that resonates for like them and for everybody else. And so like when you see people bleeding on like Facebook pages and stuff, That's because the story that they've told themselves about their experience, and they let that be what they think the story is for everybody else and what's going on. You see, like the idea of like,
Right.
you gotta choose between a guy and a bear, right? Like if you're in the woods, you want to hang out with a guy or a bear. Well, you know,
Oh, don't even get me started. Don't even.
is there
Like,
could there?
you know what? Like,
I find that to be a fascinating psychological experiment.
oh,
But
it
beyond that, it
is
is annoying.
that's all it could be.
It's
Is
super
a
annoying.
psychological experience, because I guarantee you what, you're in the woods. Put a woman out there in the woods with a bear, and if there was a man there, where's she running? She ain't
To the
running.
man.
Right.
She's not running to the bear. I'm real sorry. That ain't happening.
If she
No.
runs to the
It's not
bear,
happening.
I'm gonna get it on video because that's gonna be a
it's-
hell of a like, you know,
It's some
what is it, Faces of Death or something like that video, because no one runs to a
crazy-
bear.
I don't
It's funny
understand
you
what's
should
happening.
say that. Do you ever
Like,
hear the
just-
story about the two hikers, and they're
Psychosis
up
or
on the
something.
side of
I
a
don't-
mountain, and a bear starts charging down the mountain. The one guy sits down and he unlaces his boots and he starts putting on tennis shoes, and the other guy's like, "What are you doing? That's a grizzly. It can outrun any human being." And he goes, "I don't figure I got to be able to outrun the bear."
Just outrun you. Right? There you go.
Like,
I'm just
I don't figure I have to outrun the bear. You know,
There you go.
that's all. All he says is, "I don't figure I got to outrun the bear." He's putting on his tennis shoes so he can outrun the other guy. You know,
That's the truth. Yeah. So I'm
It is
gonna tell this story.
ugh.
Shortly after having Elijah, I was at a realtors conference in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, October.
Ooh, lovely.
And I'm out hiking, right? And I've run into like dozens of bears and stuff. Never like had like an encounter with a bear, but this is probably the closest I've ever had. And I'm out there in the woods, and I'm out by Two Oceans Lakes. If you're familiar with that area and stuff, it's really a absolutely gorgeous area. And I'm on this hike by myself, like 4 miles deep in this hike in the middle of this area, you know, middle of nowhere. And I come over this ridge, and I'm like 50 yards in front of me. It looks like a moose, like a female moose is like cruising through the
Might be
brush
worse
as
than
it's
a bear.
changing colors and stuff. It turns out to be a bear. And I'm standing there in this trail, like watching the bear going, okay, well, the wind's blowing this way. It's, you know, it's blowing towards me and stuff. So they can't smell me. And it's kind of like meandering towards the trail, but I was like, it's going the other direction. So it's going to go over that ridge and down that hill towards where the lake's at. And then my trail bends to the right, and I'll let it go over the hill. I'll be fine. So I'm standing there at the top of this ridge, just observing, watching this bear 50-ish yards away as it's crossing the trail, which used to be an old road. So it's a wide trail. It's crossing this trail behind me, like off in the distance. I don't know how far away, an elk bugles, like directly behind me. You hear this elk bugle. Hadn't heard an elk bugle the 2 hours that I was hiking before this, nothing. An elk bugles behind me, and I go, holy smokes. That bear turns his head and stares right at me, and I'm like in the middle of the trail going, my heart sank. Like, holy shit, this bear is like staring at me. It is gigantic. It is huge. And I'm like, I don't know what to do. I'm in the national park. I have my gun. I cock my gun. I pull my bear spray out and make sure my bear spray is pumped. I pump it twice again. You know, I already had checked it because I check my bear spray every time before I go hiking. I pump it twice to know that it's ready, and it's walking towards me. And I'm like, this is how it goes, right? Like my son's 6 months old. I'm gonna die. 9 months old. I'm gonna die on this freaking trail out here. I'm hiking to like overcome the sadness and the pain that I'm having. I'm not going to the conference. I only came to the conference to go on these hikes because I needed to get outside and like do it in these woods because they're magical. And I back down the hill just enough so I can't see him. And I move double speed, right? I'm walking backwards as fast as I can on this trail. And I end up getting like 75 yards away. He stops exactly where I'm at, and he sniffs the air. He sniffs it. And so I'm sitting there, and he turns around, he walks the other direction, and I turn around, and I hightail it back out, right? I get like a mile down the road, and this dude comes walking up, and he's sitting there, and he's hanging out. And he walks up, and he's like talking to me and stuff, and he's from Texas, you know, and he's got a cowboy shirt on because that's what everybody from Texas has. I'm a Redskins fan, so obviously he asked about going to see a bear. And he's like, would you go up there with me? And I'm like, I can outrun this dude. And I'm smart enough not to. So yeah, let's go, bro. So
You
we
guys
started
went back and
walking, and
found
he's
the
like
bear?
this real. Yeah, oh yeah, we found the bear. He's super religious. And he's in my phone somewhere, and I gotta find him. And so we're talking about Elijah, and he
Worst
tells me
idea
the
ever.
whole story as we're hiking. He's telling me this whole story of Elijah and stuff. We get back to that place where I'm at, right? And it's getting dusk, like the sun's setting. It's getting dusk, and we pull up on top of this ridge, and I was like, okay, this is where I saw it, And I'm like looking around, like scouting it out and stuff, and we're talking, and I go. He's like, what do you think? Do you think it's around here? I was like, I don't know. I was like, but you know what? I don't remember there being a rock right there. And I point to my right, and like 20 yards away, the
There's a
bear
bear.
stands up on its hind legs, like 8.5 feet tall. It's a freaking monster grizzly bear. It starts swaying, paws out to the side and stuff. He gets his camera out, starts snapping these photos of this bear. And I'm like going, I have my bear spray and my
You
gun in my
guys,
hand. I'm like, holy shit. I'm like, this is epic. Like we are both gonna get killed right now by this bear, and this dude's out here like he's like the stereotypical like you hear the Chinese guy and they're at the Yellowstone and they're just like they get like 5 trillion photos of like the 30-second thing, and he's just snapping these photos, and I'm like holy smokes, and finally we back out down the ridge and stuff, and we like leave, and the bear doesn't chase after us. It was a miracle.
thank
And
God.
I got some epic photos from that experience from this guy and stuff. And we went and did some other
Point and
hikes the next
shoot.
couple of days and stuff. But I thought I could outrun him for sure, or not outrun him, which was a better choice. So
I bet that bear
point and
wasn't.
shoot, that's what it was.
I
Yeah,
bet, I
man.
bet you got lucky. That bear wasn't hungry.
Todd said,
Yeah, I so lucky. It was October. It was just
no
fattening up
kidding.
for the season and stuff. So so, anyways,
That's
all right.
nuts.
You're
Enough
right,
of that
Todd.
We're
story.
not going to talk about bears
Epic.
anymore.
Yeah. So, hey,
No.
I don't know if I can bear that.
I don't know if I can bear any more bear stories. We
I
could
got other
maybe
ones
have
too. I
an
won't share
entire
them.
live just on the bear man.
Oh no,
Situation.
please. Okay, you
It-
let me
it
know
could
when you're
happen.
Bearman
doing
Wolf
that.
Pig. Can we do that one? I want to do.
Let me know when you're doing that so I can be folding socks, laundry, or something. I got better things to do than have that conversation. I'm so over it already. It's just
I
Yeah,
just think it's
it's
so
made some
funny.
really funny memes and stuff. Like I've
cute at
enjoyed a
first.
couple laughs.
Yes, it was
People
cute
have
at
made some
first,
really
and
funny
then
stuff, but it's just
Psychologically,
sad that
Shawn,
that's
where
kind of
does
stuff that's
where does
going
that
on.
all come from? Where does that come from? You
Okay.
even have grown men sitting there talking about their own kids or their daughters. Oh, my daughter's in the woods? Oh, a bear or a guy?
Another guy, yeah,
Well,
don't have
yeah,
that. Take
I
the
think I
bear.
think
So
we're I
Like,
think we're kind of at a point where people are doing a lot of hypotheticals,
but
and
yeah,
they're not being real. They're not being real. They're just doing hypotheticals. They're playing
right.
games with hypotheticals,
like
and
let's
that's
be
If you're gonna do
real.
the worst guy in the
yeah,
whole entire world, okay, that's okay.
yeah.
If you can
Okay,
find
wait.
that one and get him in
Okay,
the
You know
so
woods
what?
or the
the
bear,
the
The
psychological
most
thing you go ahead.
ridiculous part about that is, especially like with your daughter or whatever, and this strange man. It's like, actually, like realistically, if it's somebody she knows, that's the danger.
More likely,
Like,
yes.
like let's just think about these things. Like it makes me
yeah,
so mad. It
The
makes
reason we
me
as human beings have survived as long as we have is because we have a built-in negativity bias. Okay,
right,
we notice the negatives, and that's what we focus on the most. So yeah, I mean, let's face it. I mean, the number of men who would do something horrendous are very small number, but
point zero
that
zero zero zero
but that
zero
but
one or
what are the
something.
odds that a tiger is going to jump out of the bushes and kill you too? I mean, it's a pretty small, percentage of the
Not
time
if
that
you're
that's
in a
going to
place with
happen.
tigers.
Well, it depends.
I mean,
So even in places with tigers, I mean,
that's true.
I use the example all the time. Somebody says, "Well, I don't dare go do this," and I'm like, "You do realize that the odds of you getting hit by lightning are greater than that happening to you?" And they always look at you kind of funny. It's like, no, seriously, look it up, And it's like,
right.
so I mean, but we, or get into a car accident, I mean, car accidents happen all the time, but we get into our cars and we go out and we drive anyway. You have a decent chance of, but we eventually develop an understanding that there's risks and rewards and there's trade-offs here. And so that's the reason I said it's a psychological experiment, because I mean, I kind of, I let it go, even though it annoys me. I let it go because I think, okay, so well, people need to work their way through this. Eventually, this is going to die out, and everybody's going to recognize how silly it was. But in the meanwhile, we've got a number of people that are hysterical about it, and that's the frustrating.
In the
part.
meanwhile, women are going to get eaten by bears all the time.
Well,
You know,
And the sad part
I wrote
is that
my
hopefully most women are smarter than that. Most of the women I know are smart enough to know better. So,
given that hypothetical situation, the man in the woods would probably try to
I can't
save
turn
the
around and
woman
walk down the
after
trail. There's a
she
guy
chose
behind me.
the
I better
bear.
keep going towards
so
the bear.
yeah, you're almost
He'd try to save you anyway.
yes.
Dumbass.
You know, I
And
mean,
in fact,
what
the
is it?
odds are better. The
Uh,
odds are better that man will get himself killed trying to save you than it is that he's going to actually do something to you.
Exactly. That's what I was
Right,
saying.
dumb ways
Yeah.
to die. Is
Yeah.
that how that's how the skit goes? Dumb ways to die, and then they have that
Right.
video of like it's the girl like sitting in the trail going, "Oh shit, there's a guy over that way. There's a bear over there. I'm gonna walk towards the bear because that's my safer bet. That's where I'm safe at,
ridiculous.
in the bear's arms. I saw the picture on
Ridiculous.
Facebook. It's got to be real. I'm going to the bear. So
I think, again, like I said, it was a thought experiment where women were trying to point out that they're scared of men these days, and
Right.
I think that overall that fear is wrong and overblown. But there are men out there. I mean, Ted Bundy existed.
It's
I
so many
mean,
things though, right? Like all those things all happened in the past, right? There was rape and abuse and all this kind of stuff. Like people who did dumb, horrible things to other people
It still
throughout
happens
history.
now.
We just have it on. It's on social media now. So anytime something
Right.
bad happens, it gets blown up. Like it's got 10 million views,
Right.
and so everybody gets to see this one horrible thing, and then the next horrible thing happens the next day and somewhere else around the whole entire world, and then they see all that stuff happening, and I think that's kind of the same thing that we see is that like all these horrible stories just get blown out of proportion. And like, we can't have our kids going outside, right? Like you can't let your kids outside run around in a neighborhood because they're going to get raped by like the Chimo who's driving the white van with no windows. Like that guy's going to get that person if your kids are outside by themselves without you for 7 minutes. And so you got to call CPS because
I hear people
who
all
in
the
the
time
right
saying
mind never ran around outside,
dangerous.
Right?
Things are so much more dangerous now than it was when I was a kid. And it's like, yeah, no, you just didn't know when you were a kid how dangerous it was. Things were more dangerous
and your
then
parents
than they
didn't know
are now.
It's safer now.
Yes.
Right.
You're absolutely
safer now.
This is unquestionably the best time in human history to be a human being.
That's true.
Now, are there some little bumps here and there that make things worse here or there? But yeah, Lorraine Bobbitt. I'm actually from Prince William County where that whole thing happened. That's so funny. That happened right here in my county.
Holy smokes! Okay, right.
Yeah, right.
I think.
Right here.
I think that people.
I drive by the spot where she threw his thing out the window all the time and think about it, and then of course I always think.
Is there a sign or something there, like a statue?
No. I just happened to know because we were in the social media age, and I happened to look it up to see where it was, and it was like, so now every time I drive by there, I think to myself, well, I'm glad it wasn't me because they never found it.
Right. I think that we should have a statue out there for that. Like that would be people would show up for that. You know what? We could probably put like a donation jar and have it for like a shared parenting donation jar right there.
If it was on private property, somebody probably would have done that by now. Somebody would have done that by now if it had been on private property, but it's a public street, so Dang
it. All right.
That's too
we
bad.
Gotta get back on topic here.
All right.
Get back on topic.
So,
people. Go ahead.
Close her out.
No, I just want the people that are struggling out there. I want them to know that there are people out here who care. I know it's hard to deal with stuff, and it's hard sometimes to just work up the nerve to actually call somebody and make that attempt. So I'm always very grateful to every person who calls, because to me it feels like, hey, this is somebody who was brave enough to admit that they need help, and they're calling for help. So that's I want to make sure everybody understands that. I don't feel any pity towards people who call me. I don't feel any negative feelings at all. It's always about, I'm just so glad that they worked up the nerve to do it, to reach out. So hopefully we can, when we post this video, we can put that Calendly link up there so people can schedule an appointment with me if they want. It's all completely free. I get that question all the time. People are always like, well, how much are you going to charge me? It's like, no, I do this because I want to help. I mean, like I said, I was there. I couldn't find anybody to help me. Eventually, if somebody, has been, wants something like I do have some classes and things like that where I'd be more than happy to offer those to you. But the calls themselves, no. I mean, as Chuck and some of the other people will tell you, I've had hundreds and hundreds of calls with them, and I've never charged them a penny. So it just want to make that very
Shawn,
clear.
Joseph
Shawn
asked
is
where
here
you're
for
out
you.
of.
We are here for you. What?
I'm in Virginia, just about 20 miles south of Washington, D.C. When the wind blows the right direction, I can smell it. So,
Yeah. Gotta be the worst, man. Can I get a refinery, please? Because that stinks.
Yeah. So no.
I'm gonna block
I
this
think
user on here real
I think
quick,
you know
Zach. Sorry,
the important thing is that, guys, I blocked a user and I'm deleting the comments. So don't go to Mandy Walker SO. That is a scam.
That's the Jerry Lucas.
Oh no.
Yeah, they're all getting.
I swear I spend more time on the pages going through and banning and deleting posts from the scammers who want you to go to the witch doctor that saved their marriage, or it's like, what the. They're getting more and more creative, though. I mean, there have been times where you read the first paragraph and they're talking about exactly what's in the comment stream, and you have to get all the way to the bottom where suddenly it shifts into, if you call so and so, they'll help you, and it's just like, oh no, here we go again.
It's weird,
because I mean, I actually reached out to some of those people just out of curiosity in the beginning, just to see, it's like, oh, maybe this is somebody I can team up with, maybe they have good information. And then, ding!
There you go. Thanks, Chuck.
It's scams.
I want to see if I can put it on the ticker.
We need to post that on ours though, because in the comments we can post it to all the different pages at one time. So
yes,
okay.
So I'll put in the comments and stuff.
And don't worry, if there's a time open on there when you get on there, then that's your time. I mean, you don't have to be worried about whether or not I'm going to be too busy. I block off time so that I have my own personal time, and then the rest of the time, any time that's open is yours for the taking. So I just want people to understand that.
Right.
I mean, jump on it. It's good for a 40-minute call, and we can do as many calls as it takes to get you through whatever it is you're going through. So
yeah. I mean,
wow, holy moly.
My experience, Shawn, of talking to you and stuff, and go ahead. We need to spend more time together. But my experience of talking to you and just being with you is that you have the biggest heart, and you are just so committed to supporting people going through this experience, this trouble and difficulty of family court, and I would imagine anything in life, just in general, that you want to help people out so much into doing better and being better and having a better quality of life, that you give of your time freely to these people. Anybody who needs you can go on this link and find you, and you don't ask for anything from any of them. You just give and give, and you are the kind of person that everybody should aspire to be. One of my favorite books is The Giver's Gain. Such a powerful book and stuff, and you've helped these people's lives out and that kind of stuff, but they've enriched your life so much by it, knowing how great of an impact you've made. I can only imagine, but that you have such a heart and you're so compassionate to these people. Like, you are one of the kindest, most supportive and compassionate people I've ever met, and it's a blessing to be your friend. And you have saved lives and changed lives and made a real difference for so many people. And I'm excited for all the more that you do. I mean, look at Chuck. That guy's a true testament.
Funny that Chuck is probably, without a question, people like him are the reason why I find it so much easier to keep doing what I do, because I mean, he's taken the example that I'm trying to set for people, and he's created his own. I mean, you saw in last week's interview, he's created his own deal. You know, he took what I'm doing and made it his own. You know, and he's out
Right.
there, you know,
Serving
people and
Changing lives.
you know, I mean,
Farmer Chuck.
that's just incredible. And I mean, it swells my heart to 10 times its normal size every time I think about how he's done that. And I mean, I mean, to me, that's the best payback I could get. I mean, somebody could give me $1 million and it wouldn't be as good as that. It wouldn't be as good as that. I mean, now I might take that $1 million and create that peer support network that I want if somebody wants to send it to me. But
That's what I was just gonna say.
that would be nice, because that's been the hardest part, to be honest with you. With if anybody's wondering, well, you have this great idea, why haven't you done it? It's like, because it takes money, and honestly, I don't have a lot of money, so I haven't been able to. I'm working on grants and I'm working on ways to make it happen, but it's been much slower going than I thought it would. So.
Yeah.
Well, I you know, not to toot my own horn, but I wrote a grant that got me money for a grant researcher and writer, and I was awarded the grant like 2 weeks ago, and I signed the contract today with this grant writer who will locate grants and find me grants for my missions, at least one grant every single month going forward, and they will continue to repeat it for me for 24 months beyond
wow.
those ones. So they'll do another search again in 12 months for another group of them. I can still continue the same ones, but I can get more. And they have a discounted price for doing their services for writing grants. So I think there's some opportunities out there and stuff. And
Look it up.
if there's anybody that I know that has the kind of heart and connection for making this difference in people's lives, it's you. We've talked about how we can do this stuff, and I think that you are one of the most unsung heroes in this movement, that you have changed more lives than you could ever imagine, and that having some kind of platform where you can do even more would only accelerate your ability to make a bigger difference and help more people out. And I just can't wait to see you in that role, leading these other advocates and supporting these men going through these times. And I know that is your destiny, and I hope to be able to be connected with you as you go through all this experience. I love you, man. I think you're an amazing human being and one of the greatest, most caring men I've ever come across, and I'm blessed to have you. And everybody that calls you is blessed to have you too. Go to Calendly.
Thank you.
You will find how amazing Shawn is. In case you didn't tell on this hour-long call, he's as good as they get.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Zach, you took all my words. I'm just happy to know both of you. That's all.
Yeah. Well, I refer people
Right
to
out of
Zach.
my
I refer people to Zach all the time. So I mean, he's fantastic too. I mean, I love Zach. So I mean, and Alyssa. I mean, Alicia. I'm going to get that right eventually.
It's okay. It's fine.
We're well, I
answer to anything.
I know, but okay, anything. I'm just going to start calling you anything so I don't mess it up. No, but I don't know. I do the best I can. Like anybody, I have those moments of struggle where, I mean, things aren't going well and my house is a mess and I'm not keeping up with, doing the things I want to get done, or I miss a call because I'm distracted or something and I have to apologize to somebody and I feel like a total dirtbag because I've let somebody down. In those moments, I have to remind myself, hey, I'm a human being. I'm doing the best that I can in this human experience that we have. And it's not easy. It's never easy.
Shit happens.
Yep.
Yep.
Shit happens.
It's never easy. So I know at the end of the day that I'm doing the best that I can. And that's, I mean, It's like, I mean, Zach and I had a little challenge going where I was convinced that I was going to be able to see my abs by July. Well, I don't know that that's going to happen. I'm still trying. I'm still trying, for crying out loud, but I don't think it's going to happen.
I'm right there with you, buddy. Don't worry.
I hit
Not gonna happen for me
200.
either.
I hit 208 pounds and I just stopped. I mean, mind you, I was at 342 at one point. So, I mean, 208 is a big accomplishment, but
Maybe you're just supposed to be 208. Okay.
I don't know it's funny because when I had cancer, that's exactly the weight that I got to when I was going through that stuff. It was exactly the same weight. And I'm
That's as
like,
small as you're gonna
I
get?
seem to have a set point that doesn't want to get past this. So I'm actually working with another coach who's trying to help me get past that set point now to try to move myself on, because it doesn't matter how knowledgeable you are about things or how intelligent you are. You need help. You need outside help from people. And that would be probably the last message I'd like to leave for everybody is do not hesitate to reach out and talk to somebody. It doesn't have to be me. It could be Zach. It could be anybody. Talk to somebody. Don't try to figure this out on your own. I think it was Albert Einstein that says, you can't fix a problem with the same brain that caused it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a paraphrase, obviously, but I mean, yeah,
Sounds
exactly.
really good.
I mean, you can't fix something with the same thought processes that caused the problem. So having somebody else to bounce stuff off of and talk to and work your way through it and stuff really makes a huge difference. I mean, again, we talked about advice earlier, and advice isn't really the business that I'm in. Will I give advice when I think it's appropriate? Absolutely. But the business is really about helping people to figure it out on their own. And they do all the time.
Yeah.
I'm humbled.
You
by
have
it
your
all
own
the
answer.
time. Yeah. I'm humbled by it all the time.
I'm just here to help guide you to finding your answer for
Chuck's
yourself.
got one more question.
So, you know what?
Hold on. Chuck's got one more question.
Oh no.
Chuck.
Oh, okay.
What is, you can read it, one thing you could wish you could change about family court with your vast experience in helping people?
We could do a whole session on this. I mean, we could have a whole conversation about this. So I'm not going to go into the one thing. If I was only allowed to change one thing and I could just magically make it happen, what would it be? I don't know that I have a set answer for that. I would say that because even if I fixed one thing, there's so many other things that need to be fixed. I mean, I've been to the American Family Conciliatory Courts conferences, and I've spoken with judges and guardian ad litems and other therapists and things, and it just convinced me that there's such a wide variety of views. And the problem that we have is that these are all human beings too. Yeah, get rid of Title 4D. That would be a big step in the right direction. But that isn't, that the problem with Title 4D. Yeah, if I was going to wave a magic wand, I would probably, it would. But they would replace it with something similar because, I mean,
what if
you've heard the idea that when you want to figure out what's wrong with something, follow the money, and that's exactly what's going on here. I mean, that's only one part of the issue. Even if Title 4D had never been created, we'd still be having problems. That just, has made it harder for us to defeat the issue. If Title 4D wasn't there, I think we would have. I mean, Mark Ludwig has done great work in the getting the shared parenting laws passed. I mean, he's my hero, no question about it. And the problem there is that, I mean, Title 4D, and he talks about it too, is a big issue because, you go in and you try to talk to these legislators and they do not want to talk about it because it's going to cost them a ton of money. The states need that money. I mean, they've become dependent on that money, and that's a huge amount of money that they get through it. So
they're dependent on it. I think that's a huge thing.
No judge is sitting there thinking to himself, "Oh, I need to make sure that I award." Well, I'd say 99% of the judges are not. There may be 1% out there that does, but they're not sitting there thinking, I'm going to award custody to the person that can pay the most so that we rake in the most money. because that's not how they think. Judges actually are trying to do a good job up there, but is it a bias that affects how they're thinking? Absolutely. Absolutely.
Right.
And does it affect how the laws are made and how? So yes, it's one of those underlying issues that girds the whole system that causes all sorts of problems. I
Right.
mean, I have to always hedge that because I hear people all the time say, well, yeah, these judges, they're just doing it just for this reason. It's like, yeah, no, I've talked to a lot of people, attorneys, judges, and stuff like that, and most of them see themselves as heroes. They go home and they sleep well at night because they feel like, well, I do such a great job. And what's funny is what they do actually works for the great majority of people. But as I pointed out at these conferences, is that it doesn't matter. You're taking the easy stuff is where you're succeeding. It's when stuff gets hard is where you're failing miserably. And that's where you need to be fixing stuff. And I hear them talk
When the people
a
get
lot.
along, there's no problems.
Right.
Like,
Right.
hey,
And I hear
we
them
don't get
talk
along.
a
We won't be
lot
together
about
anymore.
how they're gonna. I hear them talk about how they're gonna fix it. If you go to these conferences, you'll see they actually have conversations about most of the things we're complaining about, but then nothing ever happens. Nothing ever gets done.
Oh yeah, shared parenting. Oh, we just can't do that. If you can't force it. We definitely, and most people do that, and they just don't go
It's
to court, and they
cookie
just do
cutter.
and agree with themselves. It's
Yeah.
cookie cutter.
Yeah.
And they're having these discussions about these same things. They're just coming at it from a totally different way, and usually it's a way that enriches lawyers, because lawyers' number one concern is fees, and that's what lawyers are looking out for. And they know there's a lot of fees in having the conflict in family court, and lawyers are taught to win. And the whole thing's about making a case and winning your case. And they're not about compromising and negotiating and getting to a win-win situation. Making this a black vote is not what lawyers are trained to do. It's a black versus red. And until we can get to a place where lawyers are compassionate and trying to find a way to make this system work for everybody to give the kids what's best from both of these parents in a really crappy spot, we're not going to get there, And so,
Can I make a suggestion about another problem with attorneys?
Yes.
Mr. Going to be an attorney soon. The other problem is that if they're not going to make bank off of it, then they're going to mail it in. And I see that happen even more often than I see the conflict. I see where they just mail it in. They have this They have a cookie cutter approach that they use for family law cases. And you come in and you think you've hired this advocate that's going to fight tooth and nail for you, and they plug you into their cookie cutter, and you get what the result of that is. They put in the minimal amount of effort that they can in order to represent you. And you walk out of there going, what just happened to me?
Yep.
And they're like,
everything's going to get Eileen's Colossal Cookies, and they get Chips Ahoy.
Right.
From their parents.
Right. And it's like, well, we could appeal. You got another 10 grand.
10 grand? This ain't 1988. $30,000 is minimum.
I think the transcript is like 6,000 or something.
Yeah.
Probably.
Well, they want that 10 grand up front just to consider getting it started. I mean, they don't tell you that, but it's like, you got another 10 grand, and if you say yes, then they've got you. It's like, reel you in. So yeah. All right. Well,
Shawn, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Right.
Ditto.
I think
I love you guys. And
the thing I would change,
Oh no.
I would change. Well, I want to talk about what I would change and what you would change, Alicia. But
I heard.
All right, get out of here,
easy.
Shawn. Love you.
Mine's easy.
Yeah, I already gave you all the love already.
We're gonna talk about this question next one.
Let's talk this week. I would love to talk some more with you and stuff. And I have some stuff set up. I think we need to get this stuff on there. So.
All right.
Yeah. Sounds good. I like it. All right, buddy. Good night.
Thank you for coming on, sir.
Cuddle those cats.
Thank you. Love you all. I look forward to speaking to you again.
We'll see you later.
All right. Good night.
My computer's tweaking out.
Your computer has been tweaking out the whole night. Thanks, Zach. I gotta get out of here, and I'm going to
love you too, man.
Eat food. Eat food.
Well, I mean, Mine has or your has? Mine has.
Your computer, yeah. Okay.
Close it up. Yeah, eat some food. I am gonna close this up, and then we'll announce who we can have on next week. You know,
It's on a list. You're gonna close this out by
my
yourself?
computer. Night, everybody. See you next week.